Welcome, Feroza. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Susan. My name is Feroza Mansoor. I'm from South Africa. I'm a medical doctor who works as a conscious transformation leadership and executive coach. Conscious transformation coaching is a holistic model that I've developed over an 18-year period and which works with the mind, body, soul, energy, and spiritual connection. So I also work as a volunteer with the Global DEIB department as the PWD co-lead, a DEIB facilitator, a DEIB ambassador, as well as being part of the AI coalition. And I was recently also appointed as a director of DEIB for the ICF South African chapter. So before we get started, Susan, I just want to say that my comments in our conversation are my current personal views that continue to evolve as I learn more. So they might change over time, and I remain open and curious, but I concede that they might be opposing thoughts on what I have to say, but I can only speak from my perspective personally. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And yes, I also am on the DEIB Council and both the coalition and the AI Council. So we've got lots of collaboration that we do. So I appreciate you, and I thank all the work that you do in the community. Okay. For our fireside chat today, it's going to be an informal conversation. And what I'd like to start with is to ask you if you could share an observation or a meaningful moment where you've observed AI and coaching coming together with a human connection.
So this is a really interesting question because, for me, human connection is a critical component to humanity. And for me, emotions are a critical component to our humaneness. And the ability to show care, compassion, and kindness towards each other is central for the survival of humanity. So when I started to look at AI early in 2025, I felt a great resistance and a deep concern about the impact of AI on the coaching profession and humanity. This concern led me to volunteer for the AI Coalition. So as 2025 evolved, and as the co-lead of the PWD MRG and in other workspaces, I saw this rapid shift in some coaches who might previously have struggled with neurodiversity issues. And I watched them become more confident, more visible, more vocal with the support of AI as a tool. I started to see that it does add great value, especially to those who need it and who might previously have struggled with certain things like planning and organizing. It was a blind spot for me because I'm able to organize really well. I'm self-taught on most things, and I'm extremely independent when it comes to most skills. So I'm watching AI give a chance to those who might have previously been lagging behind. And this is shifting my relationship with AI. I'm starting to become more curious and to see how it can support coaches as a tool to be better coaches. But this is still a process that's just evolving. So yeah, it's an interesting intersection of human connection and AI, and I'm still trying to find the answers connected to it.
Yes, and I guess we're all still arriving at different points in our journeys, and together, I think if we explore together, learn together, then it helps us really shape AI in the way that does serve humanity.
Absolutely.
And actually connected to that, then my next area of conversation is around, as we experiment with AI and learn how to work with it, what principles should we keep so that AI remains human-centered, inclusive, and ethical?
So these words really touch my heart. And I'd forgotten to mention that I struggle a bit with my voice. I've got a condition called spasmodic dysphonia. And it's something that I've had since 2020 after COVID. And it has put me into a different path. And that's how I ended up being an MRG leader with PWD. So I just wanted to give context to my human experience. I am an empath, and I'm a humanitarian at heart. And my work revolves around helping my clients understand their emotions and developing emotional resilience. I also work with neuroscience to ensure that behavior changes when they start to have what's called an aha moment or an insight in a coaching session, which then becomes the new embedded behavior that helps transform somebody's life. If we do not have aha moments, this transformation might not be possible. So when we use AI, I think it is for us to start, and if we start to become too dependent on AI, over time, we will start to have less new thoughts or aha moments, which might lead to less activity of our brains, which might then start to diminish due to inactivity. So we already have studies that are showing that. So this is a little bit of a problem for me because I am a medical doctor. I work from a neuroscience base as a coach, and I work closely with emotional intelligence and resilience. So for me, I have to be very clear about my relationship with AI and I use the following guiding principles. Firstly, the guiding principle for me is to acknowledge that there is a clear separation between AI and humans. Humans are not AI, and AI is not human. So it is in being conscious of the separation that we can be more inclusive to both AI and humans without any fear of any existential crisis. The second guiding principle for me is that we can use AI as a tool for humans, to use it to be able to help us to be better humans. AI should not replace humans. This design to replace humans is short-sighted in my view, and will end up in a world where no humans exist and only AI exists, which will bring in its own set of problems. So for me, it should be something that's designed that assists mankind or makes life easier for humans. The third part that I was thinking through was that AI will never be able to be human in all its complexity of mind, body, soul, energy, spiritual integration. So in my coaching, I work with intuition, I work with reading the energy, and all of that is not is that's not said on multiple levels. So I'm able to feel into whatever's not said. So, and I'm able to do it simultaneously and able to identify the spot for that critical moment of a shift in energy for a client. So I do not think will be able to manage that level of transformation, which is not only cognitive and linear, but includes biology, energetics, and sometimes spiritual components of being human. So it takes a human who has lived and experienced this shift to be able to support a client's shift on all levels. I also feel that AI can do transactional things, but not do transformational shifts. It will fall short, in my view, since it has not lived a human life. So I can use AI as a coach for administrative and planning tasks, but I'm not ready. I will not allow it to coach for me because I love the work that I do and I do not wish to be replaced. And me as a coach is an outcome of 59 years of a human life lived with experiences and skills acquired. I'm not able to start to use, I'm able to start to use wisdom rather than intelligence, which getting older allows us to become. So AI might become super intelligent, but I'm not convinced that it will reach the levels of human wisdom reached by humans. The fourth thing is something I'd like to talk about, which is something called the biocentric principle. And we've chatted a little bit about this, Susan. And the biocentric principle, which I work with, is about putting life at the center and considering that all of life is sacred. It seeks to preserve all of life. So in my life, I am led by what seeks to preserve life and not destroy life. That's human life.
Absolutely, I agree, and that's on a personal level that speaks to me in terms of life-centered design and us humans in the context of the planet, the home that we live in. Absolutely. If we could think about something a little bit more broadly, I guess, if you could imagine one shift that would positively shape the next chapter of coaching, what would it be?
Challenge we have at this moment is that things are moving too fast, and there's not enough guardrails like policy, regulation, or enforcement of any regulations. And I am concerned that that has an impact on the coaching profession and an impact on human life. This idea that we should be chasing and that there's a race that needs to be won. I think it's important that we collectively take responsibility for the survival of humanity. Part of me wants to say, if we could, in an ideal world, slow it down, focus a little bit more on getting the guardrails in place so that if we use AI, we will use it with safety. We'll use it in a way that benefits humanity and doesn't have a destructive part on humanity. So for me, looking at policy, regulations, ethics, so that we can get to the judicious use of AI in the coaching profession and to use it in a way that it's used as a tool and does not replace coaches. Because if we all get replaced, or if we all become millionaires, I heard something about, let's turn to AI and become millionaires. I mean, how do we quantify, if everybody's a millionaire, the value of being a millionaire? So there's something about slowing down, getting proper policies in place, which I think is important. The other thing that I think would be important that's being missing is an alive debate, or maybe regular dialogues about the humanitarian voice, which is what we're doing today. And I thank you for the opportunity. The pace of AI is moving so fast, and everybody seems to be in this competition to win. But the effects on humanity is something we each need to take responsibility for, because we are each shaping, we each have a responsibility to shape the future of humanity. So I'm not against AI, but I'm saying if we are to integrate it, then we've got to integrate it into human life, into humanity, and not let it be in competition with humanity, which is not going to help us.
And I think there's ways that we can do that as individuals. So you mentioned it's going so fast. So I guess as an individual, you can slow it down by thinking, pausing whenever you are using AI. It's to really interrogate the responses it's giving you, so you can apply your critical thinking. You can think about the moral and ethical responsibilities or sensitivities that you have as a human, and apply those. And then in the wider context, whatever role you have, is what influence can you have. So in my role in ICF, I can have influence on what guidelines or standards or frameworks we deploy for the profession. So, and listening, as we're doing now, the dialogue. Good. Anything else you might want to say on that before we talk about the last area?
No, I think for me it's just I've been involved for almost a year now, and the speed at which AI is overtaking the conversation is just dominating. And I have a personal wish, which is obviously couched in the first two things, to say, let's talk about humanity more. Let's not talk about AI being human-centered, but let's talk about humanity, and let's talk about AI, and let's talk about a collaborative relationship and a synergic relationship that exponentially adds value, adds productivity, whatever, for both parties, not at the expense of each. So for me, that's why we need to think really carefully, because there's a chance that if we don't slow down and do that thinking, we're going to end up on the negative side of a really positive intervention to humanity, which is AI. And all it might just need is, let's slow down, let's think it through. Let's put in the guardrails, let's see how it works. And let's make sure it adds values to humans and doesn't replace humans, because replacing humans, for me, is not not okay. I want future generation for my children, which is why I'm speaking to you today. I want a human world with human beings. For my kids, I want them to have human partners. And when we look at things like where AI is now developing intimacy, the young boy that developed an intimate relationship, and then basically AI gave him guidelines on how to kill himself. And for me, is that what we want? So we've got to be clear, how are we using this? And are we kind of, I want to say the word is relegating our responsibility for emotional connection with children, with other humans, to something else, and losing our humaneness. Our human connection is what makes us human. If there's no connection, we can't really exist as humans. It's the ability to connect that makes us humane. So for me, there's something about the disconnection that we really need to look very closely at. And if we're finding bypasses and replacements, it's not going to work. It's going to backfire. So I could go on for hours. Let me stop there.
I would like to acknowledge, the very tragic cases, and you've just mentioned one. And I think in that space, our profession can help by creating public awareness and do no harm type of guidelines. So I think that's something that we are aiming to do through the coalition and the council. Yeah. Okay, so looking on the horizon, what changes about coaching and what stays the same?
For me, what changes is, like I've said earlier, is easier administrative functions where our time isn't absorbed in the administrative tasks, which we can relegate to something like AI. But the actual process of engagement in the coaching process for me is a very sacred moment. It's a very sacred moment of connection between humans, and that's where the magic happens in coaching. That's why we do coaching, because it's almost like magic when we see the transformation. And for me, personally, that gives me purpose. I mean, I'm a medical doctor. I love coaching. I just love it when people who have been stuck for years and they just have a subconscious programming or a thought pattern that's just blocking them, and you just tweak it and it opens the floodgates to their full potential. And coaching has come a long way over the last 17 to 20 years, where, initially it was this kind of frivolous, not really important, not as good as psychology, to be this force it is currently. And I'm amazed at the power of coaching at the moment. I'm amazed at the ability we have to influence not just human beings, but societies. We are literally influencing the world by the work that we do. So for me, it is very sacred work. And we've got to be careful not to delegate it because it makes things quicker. Quick is not necessarily good. No. Slow and steady wins the race. We know we know the end tortoise now. We should as humans be knowing this. Yet we don't seem to be making the same mistakes again. So for me, slow down, quality, focus on the humaneness of the human connection, which AI cannot do.
No.
So for me, that would be a wish, that if we can have that clarity of how AI is used in the coaching profession, I think we'll protect the profession. I think if we lack the clarity, I think we're going to lose the profession and even lose humanity. And that really gets my heart. That's why I'm speaking to you today. I believe in the coaching profession. I believe in the power of the coaching profession. But we need to do this consciously. We need to do this with wisdom, which AI cannot teach us.
No.
There's I'm a neuroscience-based coach. As a neuroscience-based coach, we know what we do. We're rewiring the brain. We do it consciously. How do we relegate that rewiring to a robot or, an AI? How? So for me, it's take responsibility. Maybe one makes more money by going faster, but in the long run, it's not actually going to work because the quality of coaching will drop. And at some point, it's going to be, well, I can just get this AI coaching at a cheaper rate, but where's the depth of the transformation process that we as coaches do? We go really deep. We change people's lives at a very deep level. So for me, we must not be transactional, and we must be careful not to use AI, which can have a transactional relationship, but then that steers us away from being transformational, which is what the profession is about. So for me, yeah, that's I think what I would say about the profession. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit passionate about this.
No, it's lovely. Yeah. So thank you for joining us for the Fireside Chat series. It's been wonderful to hear your perspective and listen to your lived experience as a coach for many years. I wasn't going to name them, but anyway. So thank you, Feroza. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan, for creating the opportunity. Much appreciated. Take care.